I'm Sam Pessin, president of the Friends of Liberty State Park. We're having another rally today to support the Liberty Park Protection Act. We're urging Governor Murphy to take a public stand to support the Protection Act to once and for all protect this sacred, treasured public land behind the Statue of Liberty. Paul Fireman, the owner of the golf course, wants to destroy the Caven Point Nature Area for golf holes, and that's why he's trying to kill the Protection Act again. The act is reintroduced, and we're going to push very hard and persevere until this park is protected forever. So we're going to start with Beverly Brown. Beverly works with New Jersey Citizen Action, a prominent frontlines organization in our state. Beverly is the Financial and the Community Reinvestment Act organizer and advocate, and New Jersey Citizen Action is a statewide grassroots organization fighting for social, racial, and economic justice. And we're honored that Beverly is here today. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you, Sam. It is we, Citizen Action, that are honored to be here with you and everybody in this important rally to push the Liberty State Park Protection Act into law. Citizen Action views the act as a vital environmental justice piece of legislation to fight yet again an effort to privatize a portion of the park. It's a matter of inclusion versus exclusion. It's a matter of equal access to public land for the benefit of all versus exploitation of public land for the benefit of a few. Yeah. It's par for the course, no pun intended, that we're here once again to defend Liberty State Park from this attempt to privatize Caven Point. We're here at a park where we have the privilege and the pleasure of viewing Lady Liberty. We contemplate her, we think about her. She's arguably one of the most important symbols of inclusion for this nation and indeed for the world. The investors of a golf course tell us they need Caven Point so they can play 3 more holes. They want 3 holes. Well, we the people, we're here to say that we want a whole return on our investment in this park. You and I, everybody up here, and people generations before us have invested in this park for decades and made it the beautiful jewel that it is, the one that they get to enjoy from their private club. They want 3 holes. Well, we want whole access to Caven Point and the park for the whole city, the whole state, and the whole world. Those are the only holes that we're concerned with. So tell get on your phones, get on your computers, and tell the legislature and Governor Murphy it's time. We want the whole thing. We want them to pass into law the Liberty State Park Protection Act now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beverly. Our next speaker is Assemblywoman Annette Shaparo. She is a sponsor of the Protection Act. She's the vice chair of both the Law and Public Safety Committee and the Special Committee on Infrastructure and Natural Resources. And Liberty Park, of course, is an amazing natural resource. And she is also one of the main sponsors of a new bill to establish minimum wage requirements for certain long-term care staff, as she knows that these frontline COVID workers are so underpaid. She's a strong advocate. She's also a strong advocate for the Hoboken dream of a totally green waterfront in Hoboken, which the mayor of Hoboken, Ravi Bala, and the Fund for Better Waterfront has been pushing for years. So thank you for what you do for the people of our state, and thank you for speaking today, Assemblywoman Shaparo.
Thank you. Can you hear me? So thank you all for being here. Because of its amazing history, views, ecological beauty and diversity, this park is a unique treasure. For many working class people, this park is their Disneyland, their great adventure. Many families can't make it to the Jersey shores. This is their family's destination. It has more open space than anywhere nearby, and I am committed to making sure this space remains public. That's why I'm a proud co-sponsor of the Liberty State Park Protection Act in the State Assembly with my colleague Raj Mukherjee. Most importantly, yesterday, we remember all the lives lost in 9/11. This park, Liberty State Park, has an emotional connection and was a huge part of that day that changed our country forever. Liberty State Park is the people's park. Let us never forget that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Annette Shaparo. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Shane Mitchell, who is representing the majority leader of the Senate, Senator Loretta Weinberg. Senator Weinberg has advocated for Liberty Park more than anyone else over the years as she spoke out against the early 1990s golf course plan. She recently issued a scathing press release against the Paul Fireman privatization sneak attack hidden in a budget bill. And Loretta Weinberg and Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee's condemnation of the governor signing it led to the governor saying at the end of that day, after he signed that bill, that the governor won't target Liberty Park. But that was Fireman's only goal in sneaking it in. So Senator Weinberg is a true hero of Liberty Park and of New Jersey, and we're glad that Senator Weinberg's legislative director is bringing remarks from her today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to speak. As you said, my name is Shane Mitchell. I'm here with Senator Weinberg's office. I'm a proud resident of Ward E. Senator, sorry she couldn't be here today. Senator Weinberg has long been an advocate for keeping Liberty State Park for the public, both to preserve a fragile ecosystem at Caven Point, and so the park may continue to serve the community. Senator wants to thank her co-sponsors on the bill, Assemblywoman Shaparo, Assemblyman Mukherjee, and especially Senator Brian Stack, who is our prime sponsor in the Senate. She also wants to thank Mayor Phillip, Councilman Lavarro, Councilman Salomon for their longstanding support for the Liberty State Park Protection Act. The Senator wanted me to give a special thanks to the friends of Liberty State Park and to Sam Pessin in particular. He's been a tireless and fearless advocate for this park. I think we all know we wouldn't still be here without his advocacy. The Liberty State Park Protection Act seeks to answer a very simple question. Whose park is this? Whose park is this? Is it Paul Fireman's park? No. Is it here for wherever rich man has the most money? No. Whose park is this? I'll tell you. As a Jersey City resident myself, I'm here to say, this is my park. This is your park. This park belongs to all of us, and it should be the community, not billionaires, who decide what we do with it. As I'm sure most of you know, in the past we've had some trouble getting the Liberty State Park Protection Act passed in legislature. In the dark hallways of the State House, it is easy for moneyed interests to grab the elbows of legislators. It is those interests who seek to muddy the waters, to confuse the issue, to fool you into believing that you can save the park by chopping it into pieces. But as should be clear by now, there's something more powerful than mere cash. We don't have billions of dollars or high-powered lobbyists. What we have is much more precious. We have the people, we have the community. Over 21,000 people have signed the petition, and over 89 groups have joined the coalition. That's an astonishing amount of public support. Those are voices that can't be ignored. So together, we have the strength to pass the bill. Together, we will demand that Governor Murphy signs that bill, and together we will safeguard the park and the public's right to access it. Senator Weinberg stands with you now and always. Let's get this bill passed.
Senator Weinberg really rocks, and thank you, Shane, for bringing that powerful message to us. And then next, batting cleanup, we have Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee, first prime sponsor of the Protection Act in the Assembly, and he is a first prime human being. Raj is an advocate for working families, a fighter for justice and people's quality of life, and is one of the most effective leaders in New Jersey. He's currently chair of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. His bills signed into law and his awards are such a long list that we'd be here for a half hour for me to go into that. But Raj is a compassionate people's champion and a true hero of Liberty Park. So thank you, Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee.
They say, I think Pericles, if you don't take an interest in politics, politics will take an interest in you. So everybody, by being here today, by showing that protecting this park means something to you and to the people of Jersey City and to the people of New Jersey, I thank you for playing a role in defending the People's Park. What we're here talking about today is the fundamental right of an urban citizen to enjoy this free, open park space. A state park, just like our national parks, belongs to the people. So that means it's representative in a democracy of the fact that the state belongs to the people, that our country belongs to the people. When you start to entertain the idea of encroaching on a state park, you're taking that land away from the people, and as a consequence, you're starting to take the state, the country, the democracy away from the people, and it is the beginning of the end of a democracy. There's Mayor Phillip has been out there with a new master plan for all of the city's parks, and because this is a state park, I'm so grateful that the governor and Commissioner McCabe of DEP have borrowed from his ideas in order to make good, in part, on a commitment to fund Liberty State Park and the interior restoration and cleanup, and we saw that announcement recently. But at the end of the day, we will require more investment from the state. The Friends and all of you here today have never suggested that we can't look for more investment, for improvements to the park. Au contraire, they've been advocating for that for years. And we don't even oppose public-private partnerships or reasonable small-scale concessions and amenities for park goers. All we're saying is, all these ideas we've seen over the years, privatize and commercialize the park, everyone's going to have a new idea. The golf course, just the latest one. I have nothing against golf, nothing against attracting more PGA tournaments to the city. But you don't take away from public parkland to accommodate these private or commercial uses. That's the point. That's the danger. If they tried that at Central Park, hell would freeze over before that happened. Why would we allow that to happen across the river? And I'll end on this note. To try to move the idea, move the discussion to cleaning up contamination, I invite everybody to read through Liberty State Parks Protection Act, which Annette and I and others, Assemblywoman Angela McKnight, Assemblyman Chervelati, Senator Stack, Senator Cunningham, Senator Weinberg, the majority leader, what we've written, and even the amendments that are pending to include representation by Ward A, Ward F, social justice organizations, and what happens to the People's Park. You read through the whole bill, there is not one line, not one word that would preclude the cleanup of contamination. We would invite it, we would welcome it, we would insist upon it if it is required by environmental standards. There are existing laws that call for that. The idea that this bill would prevent that, total BS, totally bogus. And the idea that minorities would be left out, disadvantaged populations would be left out of improving the park or the ideas on how to better the uses for the park. We'll hear from the NAACP's Environmental Justice Chair today. That's also a ridiculous idea. And I just, if you walk around Liberty National Golf Course, which occasionally I've been a fundraiser there, a PGA event there, I don't see many disadvantaged youth from Jersey City's Ward F or Ward 8 walking around Liberty National. So how the one relates to the other defies common sense. Thank you for being here, for fighting to protect Liberty State Park as an open, urban, free, green oasis. If we pass this law, these efforts will stop, and it will permanently codify that that's exactly what she should remain. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Mukherjee. With you and your fellow sponsors pushing the bill and the people power that we need, we will definitely get this done. Thank you so much for that, your remarks today. I want to introduce the Mayor of Jersey City, Phillip, who has been a very steady and strong, dedicated advocate for our urban waterfront park. The park is very close to the mayor's heart, and he knows that this is a treasure that must be protected for our community, our state, and our nation, and the world. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you for all you're doing on so many fronts to move Jersey City forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to take a second and acknowledge we have a couple council people here. We have Councilman Mira Prince Airy here, who represents Ward B. We have Councilman James Solomon here from Ward E. And Councilman at Large Rolando Navarro is here as well. All have been strong voices. I also want to just say a quick thank you to one of the advocates who probably doesn't get as much attention as he probably deserves, and that's Greg, the baykeeper behind me. You know, I kind of view it as Batman and Robin in many ways between Sam and Greg, and often we talk about the Friends of Liberty State Park because of why we're here, and Greg has been that support system that allows a lot of us to do what we do. So I just want to say thank you to Greg again for the work that you do. And needless to say, there is only one Sam Pessin in the state of New Jersey. He packs a big punch, and I think there is a line of governors since the 1990s that have engaged in a fight with Sam Pessin, and every one of them met the same fate where they backed down from a plan, and this will be no different. This will be no different. So thank you, Sam. I do want to take a second and just take a step back from this conversation and just touch a little bit on the absurdity, if you really think about it from a pragmatic point of view. I mean, here we are a quarter mile from Ellis Island. Some of your parents or grandparents came through Ellis Island, actually. My grandparents came through Ellis Island, and they came here because of a belief that this country was about the people, about opportunities, about having no barriers. And Sam's father, which you all know, is largely credited with a group of activists of creating this park or making sure that it would move in this direction. Some of that was great foresight, and some of that was common sense. I mean, it was great foresight in the sense that Sam's father and that group said that maybe one day this waterfront will be what it eventually became. That was a special set of vision, but at the same time it was a degree of common sense to say that in some of the most prized property in the world, with views of the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island, will create something that truly represents what this country is about, that truly represents that this is open access to the best of the best for everybody. And that's really how Liberty State Park ultimately got created. And so here we are in the same fight every single year, whether it's a water park or a golf course or a marina or a hotel or privatization, it's the same thing. And it's an absurd conversation because it's counter to everything that those people came here believing about this country, if you think about it. It's on its face counter to the fact that if you had told them that everything and anything is for sale in this country, maybe they would have got on the boat and gone back the other way, because that's not what they believed when they came here. So important that we are out here today, and it's a big crowd, and I want to say thank you for coming out here on relatively short notice, and a beautiful day with a lot of other places that you can be, whether it be your families, whether it be your friends, whether it be at the shore. And I kind of view this as a gentle nudge to Trenton and the governor, or maybe a poke, but we're capable of punching too. I think you all recognize that, right? And at the end of the day, we need the governor and our legislature in Trenton to not change this legislation, to not modify it, to clearly and unequivocally say that this is the people's park, and to save us the fight every single year that we have to spend beautiful days coming out here to advocate for common sense things, that this is the public's park. So I want to say thank you for coming out here today, and we're going to continue this fight, and we're going to stand strong. And the last thing I want to say before I hand it over to Sam is that this fight, and you're all in tune with it, seems to be going in a little bit of a different direction. And I want you all to be aware of that, because it's a dangerous direction, and we need not to let that even open up at all. And what do I mean by that? You could see the rhetoric now where it's taking a conversation about race and taking the conversation that's happening nationally and putting that in this park here as if this is not a people's park for everybody. And that conversation does a disservice. It does a disservice to the national conversation around injustice, and it does a disservice to what you all know this park is about. You just need to walk around here. You know that this park is for everybody, and to say that anybody is excluded from this park is an absurd thing on its face. So when that conversation continues to surface, and you see it on chat boards, you see it in NJ.com, you see it happening now more and more with the lobbyists, that they're saying, well, this park needs to be more for everybody, you need to slam the door as hard as you can on that conversation, because it has no place here, okay? So let's continue the fight. Let's keep Liberty State Park for everybody. Thank you, Sam Pessin. Let's stand with the Friends of Liberty State Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Phillip, for those important words today. We're going to stay focused on protecting this park, which is an inclusive park and always has been, behind the Statue of Liberty. I'm going to ask for your patience because we do have some really wonderful speakers today, and I'm going to ask 3 council people to speak briefly, and then we're going to get to our community and statewide representatives like Mr. Keith Baden of the NAACP. So I'm going to start with asking the former council president and current councilman Rolando Lavaro, he and then James Solomon and Mira Prinzari, who've been with us for several years fighting for the park. So thank you, Rolando.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. Rolando Lavaro, City Councilman for Jersey City. It's an honor to stand with Sam Pessin and the Friends of Liberty State Park in this fight to keep the Liberty State Park the people's park. You know, it was said earlier that here we go again. Right? We're here again. Not less than 8 months ago, we were congregated here, and we thought that we were going to win this fight. And I thought the next time that we came together like this, that in fact we'd be celebrating rather than having another rally. And yet, here we go again. And so, what happened? And I spoke to one of the activists, and has been already suggested already, that there was some billionaire fairy dust that was sprinkled around. And I'll acknowledge that person, Dawood Williams, and other folks who've been at the forefront in fighting for this, that some fairy dust was sprinkled around, and so the narrative suddenly changed here in Jersey City around Liberty State Park. But let's be very clear about what this has been about. This is about keeping Liberty State Park the people's park. We often have talked about it in these rallies as a jewel, as a treasure, as an oasis. And if this COVID pandemic has only proven more than anything else that it truly is an oasis, a sanctuary, a place for people to go to find some solace and respite in our urban communities. And so we need more than ever for Governor Murphy to pass to see that the Liberty State Park Protection Act is enacted under law in the state of New Jersey. I want to thank our state legislators for carrying this fight. But the truth is, it's not going to be me. It's not going to be us politicians who are going to get it done. It's been the Sam Pessins, the Greg Ramods, the Dawood Williams, all of the advocates, Eliza Wright and others who have stood up and fought for this park for decades long before I ever held office. And it's going to be you and all of us who are going to stand up and make sure that our voices are heard loud and clear in Trenton, and letting Governor Murphy know that we need to pass the Liberty State Park Protection Act now. So I'm going to end with this and ask you to send a message loud and clear to Governor Murphy. Whose park is this? Whose park? Whose park? Let's get this done.
Thank you for that strong message, Rolando. And we have another strong advocate on the City Council for several years who recently spearheaded the resolution on the City Council and has written some great letters to the editor, Councilman James Solomon. Thank you, James.
All right, can you guys hear me? All righty. Let's give it up for Sam Pessin. I want to start with this. This fight for the People's Park is personal. It's personal in two ways. First, I speak to you from the biggest, tallest mountain in all of the land. And who says that? My daughter, right? My 3-year-old daughter, soon to be 3, Camila. And we would come here whenever we could during the height of the pandemic, right? When all of us were suffering, this was our sanctuary, our oasis. And she and I would run up these hills and run down them. And to her, she was climbing the Rockies, right? That's what this place is for all of us. It's personal for another reason. I have my college gear on, I have my NJCU hat and shirt, and I teach at our local universities. So give it up for NJCU, St. Peter's, Hudson County Community College. Right? The students at those schools and at our public schools at JCPS, they come to this park to learn and engage with nature, to have their curiosity piqued, right? To have their passion lifted. And I take those students to Caven Point, right? I teach an environmental public policy class, and we go there. And I see my students who represent all of Hudson County, all races, all colors, all creeds. They dip their feet into, New York Bay. They're careful. They don't want to go too far, right? They literally take a net and take out fish and mollusks. And I see the extraordinary, life-changing impact that natural space has on the way they think of their community. And it affects what they think of their future, what they're going to do, become scientists, right? Become naturalists. The people who are in charge of Liberty State Park, right? Many of them grew up in Jersey City, and that developed their passion for parks and for the natural environment. So that's why this fight is personal to me, and I know each of you has your story about why it is personal to you and why it means so much to our city and our community. And as so many have said before, here we are again. We have the chance now to mobilize, to build power, and to get our state to finally protect this land. If it wasn't for Sam Pessin, if it wasn't for his father Morris, and for all of you, we would not be standing here in a free, open, green park. What would we be looking at? We'd be looking at a marina right over there. Right? We'd be looking at 2 golf courses in the interior. And what would Chris Christie have done? I imagine he and Donald Trump would have built the gaudiest, ugliest casino somewhere right over there, right? Right? We can boo Chris Christie. That's okay. Right? So if it wasn't for all of you, all of those things would have come to pass. But we have the chance, the opportunity, finally, right, to put an end to it, right? To get Governor Murphy, Speaker Coughlin, State Senate President Sweeney to act and to protect the People's Park once and for all. We have, give it up, yeah? Right. We have a great group of leaders, Mayor Phillip, Freeholder O'Day, members of the City Council, members of the State Assembly, and all of the activists here. We are ready to go. Let's do it. Thank you all.
Councilwoman Mira Prince-Ari, if you want to say a few words, we'd appreciate it, and thank you for representing the other terrific park in Jersey City, Lincoln Park.
Thank you.
you, Sam. So, again, kind of to get to the point of here we are again. My mother-in-law worked with Sam's father on these projects, and here I am now working with him to finally, hopefully, get this done and get this bill passed. The developers and other people that have wanted to come in and do their projects have promised Jersey City residents that they'd have a golf day, have promised that our young people are going to be able to be part of a program that they've never made good on any of them. Any of these promises. Sam Pessin, his family, the advocates that are all here with us today, and you all have made good on their promise, which is to keep Liberty State Park an open, democratic space for all of us to share and enjoy together. So let's work with our state legislature, the activists, and all of us here together, letter writing, calling campaigns, whatever we need to do to finally pass this act so we can just come back and enjoy the space as it's meant to truly be enjoyed together.
We now have a special speaker, Mr. Keith Bowden. I think my phone is on a podcast. Okay. So this is a special pleasure to introduce Liberty Park's important ally and a leader with tremendous integrity, Mr. Keith Bowden. Do you want to come up to the mic? He is the New Jersey NAACP board member's acting chair of the Environmental Climate Justice Committee and also of the Armed Forces and Veterans Affairs Committee. And he recently facilitated my becoming a member of the NAACP State Environmental Committee. He is a dedicated advocate for social justice and environmental justice, for human and civil rights, and for education. He is an immigrant from Kingston, Jamaica, who graduated from Pennsylvania Military College, now Widener University, which will celebrate its 200th anniversary next year. After serving in science divisions of the Army, he was appointed by President Ford to the United States Civil Rights Commission and was involved in establishing Black History Month. He has a distinguished record of volunteer service with the NAACP and is a past president of the Morris County branch of the NAACP. It's a tremendous honor to invite Mr. Keith Bowden to speak now.
There is a patriot. His father was a patriot, and they're both NAACP members. If you're a NAACP member, please put your hand up. Thank you. Don't forget the 122nd convention virtual starts this Sunday. So make sure you're there because I just took your name, okay? I'm wearing my immigrant hat now. And I'm going to pause a minute. Over there is the World Trade Center. 19 years ago was that horrific act. And it still continues because we still have casualties from that act 19 years ago. Just one moment, let's just pause and look over there. Thank you. And I'm going to ask Raul Williams, who's on the Armed Forces and Veterans Committee of the New Jersey NAACP State Conference, to hold my hats, because we're going to have a switching of hats, because we are going to take it off and salute the patriots that are here today. We're going to start off with Jamaica. I'm an immigrant from Jamaica. My father, a merchant marine in the British Navy, World War II. We came to the USA after World War II on that fast entry. If you served in the armed forces of the Allies, you came very fast. We came to Miami, then to Tampa, Florida. I started my public school in the Hillsborough School District as a white student because Dad said, let's do it. Okay. Now, let me just pause there again and say why I'm supporting this act, me personally, an immigrant. Because if you look at my public schooling over there in Brooklyn, Boys High School. I'm going to take this hat off, the Boys High School hat, please. Thank you. Boys High School. One of the things that we automatically did was to go to Prospect Park. At the end of Prospect Park, and I have to use the parade grounds. That's where we played soccer. How many people remember parade grounds? It's still there, and there's a tennis court next to it. There's no golf. Okay, no golf. And I also played soccer, Boys High School captain, and German American Day, we would go to Governor's Island, and play soccer. And also when the German American League started, underneath the Queensboro Bridge, we would play soccer because space was very important. So to the public school students of New Jersey, the Bronx, and Queens, New York City, this space is important and we need it. Thank you. I'm moving on now. And I need to say one more thing. My Jackie Robinson hat, please. Jackie Robinson, 1951, at the hotel, he spoke. I was a Brooklyn Eagle newsboy. And he said to me, personally, whatever you do, don't go to a point of being discouraged. Move on. So I took his advice and I moved on. I moved on to Pennsylvania Military College. My next hat, please. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't wear my Boys High hat. Here it is. Okay, I did. Okay. Pennsylvania Military College. And this is very important because, again, it's space. It was founded by a Quaker from South Jersey, John Bullock. Next year, 2021, will be the 200th anniversary, 1821 to 2021. And what I would like to do, honoring Pennsylvania Military College, that I graduated the first cadet of color to be commissioned in the U.S. Army, June 1960. I want to offer 10 NAACP youth memberships. So if you are a youth, by all means, make contact with Sam here or email him and tell him that you would like to get an NAACP youth membership. So I honor my college started by a New Jerseyan. And I will be calling all the politicians for that special resolution for John Bullock next year, the 200th anniversary of Widener University. And there's a lot of space there to run around to. Thank you, sir. And finally, oops, let me make sure I put my NAACP hat back on. I was appointed to the Nixon-Ford administration, special assistant for OSHA in the development of the Toxic Substance Protection Act for the workplace. And I was fortunate to be present at the founding of the US EPA 50 years ago on December 2nd. I was also fortunate to see the war on cancer. All of the advantages that we have now is by the war on cancer and the scientists and the technical people that we have developed. We need them to continue to protect our environment, and we need this park to be free. I was also present when Black History Month went to Black History Week went to Black History Month by special executive order from President Ford. And again, I salute him. But what we need to remember, one more thing, also remember our Governor Whitman in 1981 was the head of the US EPA when that horrific act took place. And we need to remember her and salute her because she has made a stand for good government. Now, in closing, this Protection Act is necessary. All of the rules and regulations out there, the US EPA, New Jersey EPA, and the Naacp, Environmental Climate Justice Program, supports this program. It does not support a golf court. It does not support a golf court. This belongs to the people. And one more in closing. I know, Sam, I'm over. 3 minutes. Back in Wilmington, Delaware, back in the late 80s, I'm taking a train to Washington. And back in those days, you could walk in between cars. So I'm walking in between cars. You can't do it today, by the way. Don't do it. Neither on the subway. And I started, and I recognized a gentleman. And as I looked, and I said, "Senator Joe Biden?" He says, "Yes." You got it. He was, at that moment, in many family crises, as you well know. We talked as that train picked up speed. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and we had a conversation. I will never forget it. And I want you to know that on that train, in between cars, I met the next president of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Keith Baden, for your lifetime of fighting for justice and for your inspiring speech. So we're going to go to one of our senior fighters, to one of our younger advocates for the park. I'm going to introduce educational Frank Gilmore. He is a dedicated community advocate and independent-minded and inspiring young leader. Mr. Gilmore is the owner and founder of Educational Gilmore Community Learning Center. He has a podcast with over 10,000 followers on all media outlets, and he was recently on the Ellen DeGeneres show for his community givebacks and contributions to moving the community forward. So it's truly an honor, Mr. Gilmore, that you're speaking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank everyone this afternoon for coming out. I also would like to thank the friends of Liberty Park and Sam Peasant, who've been doing this for longer than I've been born. It's a shame that we're at this juncture, right? We're here fighting to protect a public park. I want you guys to let that marinate. We're here to protect a public park. Liberty State Park, hence the word state park. And what's crazy, right, is that the other side will paint the narrative that the park is not inclusive. And I said, okay, well, the park is not inclusive. I played devil advocate, said, okay, the park is not inclusive. So the solution to the park not being inclusive is to privatize the park? Am I saying something backwards here? Does this make sense? And also, I want everyone to be very cognizant of those who oppose this Liberty State Park Protection Act. I want you to be very, very conscientious of those who paint negative narratives about this not being good for the public, because you're going to get your chance to cast your vote on the ballot when they run for election. And I want you guys to remember that. I ain't going to name names because I don't want to give them no publicity. But we see what's going on. We see what's going on. And people, listen. Listen, I just want to, if you look around, it looks pretty diverse to me out here. from an age perspective, from an ethnic perspective, even a religion perspective. It looks pretty diverse to me out here. So I just want us to continue to stand in solidarity, and we're going to send a message that, right, we don't care if you're a billionaire. We understand that a lot of us won't reach that fate in our lifetime. We understand that. But we also understand that we're not going to get in the business of constantly letting people come in here to buy up the land. What's next? They're going to purchase the statue? So I say to that, I'm going to end. I just want all of us to continue to stand in solidarity and remember that no matter what, when the people come together, our voice will be heard. So even though it's a Saturday and Trenton is not in session, they hear us. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Educational Frank Gilmore, for those powerful words, speaking truth to power like you do it every day. I want to invite Freeholder Bill O'Day up for remarks. He has so Senator Weinberg's been with us since the early 90s on the state level, but in our county, we've not had a better long-term advocate than the legendary and passionate and principled Bill O'Day. So thank you, Freeholder.
Sam, when they start to call you legendary, that just means old. But that's okay. I still feel young, and I'm still here to support Sam. I'm still here to support and get past the Liberty State Park Protection Act. We need to support that. We need to get it passed. You know, as Mr. Gilmore said, there's some people that think there's a lack of diversity. I'm not sure what that means, but that there may be some other good public uses, that maybe we can do a field or two here in the park. Well, maybe we can, but we certainly don't need a private developer to let us sit down at a table and figure out how to do that. That would be the worst thing to do. And we don't need somebody with a big checkbook to come in, write somebody a big check and say, oh, by the way, I'll keep that little piece of land over there and you can put a basketball court. No. We don't need that. We need the Liberty State Park Protection Act to get passed. And then, like when a family does, when a family has a little dispute, we don't turn around, give the keys and say, who wants to buy a house, and leave. We sit down at the dinner table, we talk it out, and we come to a solution. So the people of this city and the people of the state, we can solve whatever problems we have with this park. We don't need any outside private developers with billion-dollar checkbooks coming here and telling us what to do. We need to get that Liberty State Park Protection Act passed, and passed quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Bill O'Day. And as Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee said, the Protection Act does allow for small-scale commercial activities, like an ice skating rink, some food vendors, some after-hours use of the terminal. It's a strong act, but what it does do is protect the interior, protect Caven Point, and keeps away anything but small-scale commercial activities. And even with such small-scale proposals, there would need to be 2 public hearings and a public comment period. So a subheadline, a subtitle for the Protection Act is really the Public Empowerment Act, because it will end the era, the decades of backroom deals, and put the people in the driver's seat of always having the opportunity to speak out and have a say and to decide what the future of this park should be. So we're going to continue going down in age a little bit, and we have a future and present leader with us today, Lola Lamb, who's an 8th grade student at Learning Community Charter School, who wrote a great letter to the Jersey Journal in March with her perspective. And so I'll let her come up to the microphone and read her statement as a young woman.
Technology and architecture, it can be hard to find the edge of the city, the edge of the glass skyscrapers and the paved front that adorns most houses. Nature has become synonymous with zoos. Beauty has become synonymous with cost. However, there are still places that are natural without being zoos, that are beautiful without costing $1 million. One of these places is Liberty State Park's Caven Point, a local refuge where nature still thrives. However, this tiny refuge is threatened. The Liberty State Park Protection Act was created to protect the park, including Caven Point, from privatization and commercial development. This act was introduced again in the legislate, but the Liberty National Golf Course is still asking that Caven Point be exempted from the act, leaving it open to be leased and destroyed. This exemption would benefit Paul Fireman, the owner of the most expensive golf course in history. He wishes to move 3 golf holes right down to the waterfront that is currently Caven Point. Although this deal would cost the people a local haven, there are creatures that will be losing even more. Caven Point is important to many species of migratory and local birds, including several species of birds on the state endangered list. For them, keeping Caven Point is even more crucial. These birds are on the brink of extinction, and even the loss of 21 acres of urban habitat could be the tipping point. All in all, if Caven Point were exempted from the Liberty State Park Protection Act and allowed to be privatized, it would not only be the plants that are losing everything. The people would lose a beautiful beach, a place where they have been going since the 1970s. The birds would lose their habitat, and the city would lose the wildlife diversity that is so important to our ecosystem. The only people truly gaining anything would be the extremely wealthy, the people who have so much already. They can afford not to have scenic beachfront holes, but Jersey City, both residents and wildlife, cannot and should not have to afford to lose Caven Point.
Thank you so much, Lola. We know you have a great future fighting for the environment and for people's lives. I'm going to introduce an important person in Jersey City, former councilman, and on the front lines of impacting our youth in a positive way, Chris Gadsden, who is the principal of Lincoln High School, who has been speaking so powerfully and so insightfully about what needs to happen with our city, and he is a passionate and dedicated advocate for young people and for everybody's quality of life. It's really a tremendous honor to introduce Chris Gadsden here today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Sam, I'll pay you later. Sam is a champion, right? And so, all throughout this summer, we've been dealing with a lot of just bigger issues in the United States, and as it relates to social justice here in this city and all throughout the country. And during the summer, I found it highly offensive that the conversation about this park shifted into a social justice conversation, because that conversation should not have been taken, right? It shouldn't have happened at all. And a lot of blame was taken, like Sam took a lot of heat. But the heat needs to be down there in Trenton, and everyone needs to be so focused on the Protection Act and protecting and cleaning up the land. So those advocates were speaking about the cleaning up of land, but they were blaming Sam about the cleaning up of the park. They should have shifted their focus on that state level, and that's where the push should have came in. And I found it highly offensive, that a billionaire can come in, and we speak about the pixie dust, but the pixie dust is real. When someone is receiving $40,000, $20,000, $2,500, Fireman is just writing checks, and he's writing checks to silence black voices, right? And that's totally and that's what's really happening. So those same advocates are playing the other side because they've been paid to do it. I have been an administrator at Lincoln High School for 10 years, a decade. That golf course, when it was first built around 2006 and 2009, when the golf matches started to hit real hard, there was promises being made. That billionaire the founder of the Reebok CEO, was supposed to have done the same thing that he said, that a golf incubator, a place where we can train up golfers. That was the same promise given to, God rest his soul, Dr. Wins. The same promise given to our current superintendent, Franklin Walker, the golf course at, like, so look, I've seen people, when they make promises, they throw out the bait, but then later on they renege. So we can't get tripped up whatever in that narrative. We got to be so focused on keeping this park a people's park, cleaning it up, and that's it. We can't be influenced by billionaires coming in here trying to rewrite the narrative. And that's what he's done with his money. He's trying to rewrite a narrative. So let's just stay together, let's stay focused, and let's not get sidetracked with issues of race and everything else like that. But let's just stay focused on keeping the people's park the people's park. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Chris Gadsden, for your important words. We will stay focused. We're not going to be sidetracked by the false narrative and the lies and the vicious attacks by the front people and the front false phony groups of Paul Fireman. He's paying a lot of people to divide our community and talk about things that he doesn't care about. The only thing Paul Fireman wants is to destroy the natural habitat for golf holes. So I'm going to introduce a couple of the longtime park advocates now. I'll start with Rafael Torres, who started the Hispanic Firefighters Association in the early 90s, which opposed that golf course plan. And no, you go. Yeah. And Rafael is an artist. He's a retired firefighter. He's a youth leader, and he is from the Heights. He loves Jersey City. He loves this park. And thank you, Rafael Torres, for coming out to speak today.
Thank you, Sam. Good afternoon. Thank you, Sam. And thanks, Sam, for the people. Also, because this is the People's Park. Thank you, people of all colors. My name is Rafael Torres, and I'm married with 2 children who all participated here at Liberty State Park, a relationship that continues for over 30 years. I felt the protection of the People's Park every time I drove, bicycled, or jogged through its front gates. Today, it's the paradise that we achieved and the dwelling place that we have. Whenever we need a little space, who would have thought right here in the most condensed place in North America that we have this now. Today the park will always be a special place where my son and daughter learn to ride their bikes, and where animals like turtles, exotic birds, and my favorite, rabbits. It's been protected, and it's been protected for all these years. Prior to the 70s, those rabbits, they were here. If you would see my wedding album, you'll see that the backdrop of the World Trade Center for the main centerfold is a picture, that a memory that I was always cherish, with the World Trade Center in the backdrop. A memory that doesn't stop now that I'm retired as a Jersey City firefighter, and who spent the whole night here at this park, September 11th, and nobody came. Nobody was over here in our triage area. As the president of the Hudson County Hispanic Firefighter Society, we were able to rally the Hispanic leaders who all showed concern to protect this park. I'd like to acknowledge actions of Glenn Cunningham, who set the press conference up in 1994, which was covered by local news and networks and attached and attracted the late Eliu Rivera, Jaime Vasquez, Nidia de Villa Colon, Neftelia Colon Cruz, Lourdes Arroyo, to name a few. Ethel Heston, oh my. Did you ever meet her? Ethel Heston, of course, and I were able to meet with Senator Bob Menendez, who helped us secure federal funding while recruiting support that we enjoyed for over 30 years ago. And he's still around today helping us. Robert Menendez, you gotta give a round of applause for him. And while we're at it, the late, great Weinberg, who helped us, and he helped us secure the bridge. Remember there was a fight where they were gonna get rid of the bridge and put a tugboat service where they wanted you to go to the island on a boat like everybody else, okay? That's how we go now, but we're talking about this bridge, the bridge that the employees have to go over, okay? Menendez, Weinberg were very, very good, and they got that made, and they put the permanent bridge there. We could only talk and develop, with efforts anyway, the protection is not set in stone, the Protection Act. Your efforts to be here today must also extend to the place where we must go, Trenton. Okay, either virtual or through public meetings. We need to discuss the new phase of development so we can protect ourselves by passing the Liberty State Protection Act first. We could talk development once the accomplishments have been accomplished. We can step up and assure that Jersey City public that we are going to fight for our protection areas like the Caven Point Peninsula. We must condemn the young adults who like to step on our accomplishments and ask them to join us along with our elders, regardless of the color that was brought to our attention by rogue developers who don't have the time to see that we are the colored people of the People's Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael Torres, a great Jersey City unsung hero. And now another unsung hero, Daoud David Williams, is going to speak. Daoud is the founder and longtime leader of the Community Awareness Series in the Miller Branch Library. He retired from that, and now his wonderful son has been given the opportunity to be supervisor of the Community Awareness Series. And they put on concerts throughout the city and in the Miller Branch Library. And Daoud has traveled extensively in Europe and in other places with his orchestra, the Spirit of Life Ensemble. Daoud is a famous jazz musician, and he has been a tremendous voice for Liberty Park in the last few months in being quoted in the New York Times and in the Jersey Journal and in other media outlets. He is a dear friend and an invaluable advisor to me and to the Friends of Liberty Park, and it's an honor. Thank you, Daoud, for agreeing to speak today.
Thank you very much. Sam Pessin, Friends of Liberty State Park, and all those over the years that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into making this park what it is today. My relationship to this land goes back 7 decades, and that firstly as a kid playing over there in the habitat, the wildlife habitat, playing over there with all my friends off of Orion Avenue, Jersey City, and along with my next door neighbor, the former mayor, Glenn D. Cunningham. We played right over there as children. Later on, after coming out of the Army, I worked over there where the Jersey Central Railroad was. I was a brakeman for the railroad. So I got to work all those yards over there. You can name Mud Yard, East Yard, West Yard, Coal Yard, Float Yard, all of those yards I worked. And then the railroad left. And this land was left dilapidated. It was a totally blighted area. And Morris Pessin and others with the Friends of Liberty State Park, or the supporters of Liberty State Park, came in with a vision and a plan. And that plan was to reform this dead area into this beautiful park. And we are the beneficiaries of their hard work and their vision. And to say all of that hard work and fighting off the wolves, the billionaire, millionaire wolves, all these years, we've come to this point, and at this point, we're not going to step back. We're going to say enough is enough, And we're going to stand tall with the Friends of Liberty State Park and the people of Jersey City. Don't, as some people already said, don't be fooled by this AstroTurf false, fake organization that firemen developed. And when Rolando said sprinkling fairy dust, no, sprinkling money, because he's trying to buy off whoever he could buy off. And that, why do you have some people that are silent that supported this issue, supported this no longer than 8 months ago? Where are they? You don't see them because they've been bought off and that. And right now, Fireman and his little crew are putting up posters around the city on Pacific Avenue and elsewhere calling Sam Pessin a fake and a phony and all that. Just the opposite. You know, just the opposite of what Sam is, a man who has integrity and has stood his ground all these years and carried on the vision of his father and the others of that era. So this battle is going to go down to Trenton. This is where they're trying to influence the State House, the governor's house, and the Parks Department, and they're trying to do it through money, and that they're trying to do through money, and that. So I think we should be very clear about that. This ain't the same people that stood with us less than a year ago. They're not here. Why? Money, money. Let's not forget that. I would say this. We have a battle on our hands. We need to stand in solidarity, as a lot of our other speakers spoke on. But let's keep in mind, no matter what they put out there, all roads lead to firemen. All roads lead to firemen. Do not forget that. Thank you for being here and supporting this initiative.
Thank you for telling it like it is, Dowd. And some of firemen's paid protesters are over there by the office today, and they can't, and all their excuses have been, the rug has been pulled out from them. The Jersey Journal newspaper recently had 4 stories talking about how people of the city were engaged from all wards, and Harvey Smith, the former president of the city council, saying that anyone could have come to him at any time, but no one did to push any initiative for Liberty Park. So anyone in the park's whole history could have gone to local officials, could have involved the DEP and pushed for anything. So no one's ever been excluded from decision making for Liberty Park. The DEP, probably by the end of this month or early October, is going to have a public meeting virtually on the plans for the interior, the nature restoration with funded by polluters money. And they also made, which is going to be great, that 235 acres will be cleaned up to all the legal standards, and there'll be 7 miles of trails, and it'll be an ecological wonderland. And they also pledged to collaborate on and implement some active recreation in the park and work on mass transit. It was Governor Chris Christie who terminated the shuttle bus that the Friends helped initiate, which went from the light rail station into the park. We definitely needed the shuttle bus back in the park. And as we know, Paul Fireman has his own vacant casino land where he can put a golf youth academy, or he can buy the adjacent Army Reserve site for any tournament needs that he has. So, and as Raj Mukherjee said, the only amendment that the bill really should have is to add a couple of social justice nonprofit groups to the environmental nonprofits that are on the advisory committee in the bill. And when that happens, we'll have a strong bill that'll protect this park forever. So we just have a couple more speakers. Thank you so much for being in the sun. Hope you all have some enough water. water. We have some water up here if you need it. I want to introduce Shayna Marchese, who is an extraordinary bird photographer. Please check Shayna's Instagram account of Shayna Marchese, M-A-R-C-H-E-S-E, on Instagram. She's a powerful Caven Point advocate, has been quoted in some news stories, and is probably the most knowledgeable expert about the birds at Caven Point, and has also designed our buttons and stickers. So Shayna's been on the front lines, and thank you for speaking today, Shayna.
So this pandemic has really highlighted the importance of nature and parks, especially urban green spaces like Liberty State Park. This park has been under continual assault from private interests for over 40 years, the entire time it's existed. The Protection Act is especially important now because of Liberty National Golf Course, which continues to try to acquire the Caven Point natural area in order to move 3 of their holes to the waterfront. Why is Caven Point so important and unique? It's 22 acres of varied habitat made up of upland meadow, saltwater marsh, maritime forest, tidal pools, and mud flats, and the longest natural beach in Upper New York Harbor and the Hudson River. It's one of the last undisturbed natural estuaries in New York City area, and an incredibly important stop on the Atlantic Flyway, which is a major north-south bird migration route. All those habitat types work together to provide an important nesting area for many species of conservation concern, from shorebirds like the American oystercatcher and spotted sandpiper, to songbirds like orchard orioles, to the secretive marsh bird, the clapper rail. Young birds show up every year at Caven Point ahead of their first migration, including black and yellow crowned night heron, great blue heron, Cooper's hawk, common terns. Birds of prey like the state endangered peregrine falcon and bald eagle can be seen there year-round. Caven Point is especially important as a wintering area for young peregrine falcons. I've already seen one there over this past week. There are also diamondback terrapin turtles, horseshoe crabs, Atlantic sturgeon, harbor seals, and American beavers at Caven Point. Caven Point is ecologically so important because it consists of all these habitat types working together. The golf course wants to destroy everything but a sliver of beach, which would only be accessible to park goers from the water. Also at Caven Point, educational and interpretive programs bring hundreds of people there every year. This summer, there were numerous socially distanced guided walks out to the beach. Also, this summer, Greener JC hosted science research-based internships for Jersey City high school students. As part of that, 4 students were paired with a mentor, and they conducted bird surveys out at Caven Point. Many of us here today spend time at Caven Point enjoying its beauty, wildlife, and serenity. The Liberty State Park Protection Act is about protecting this park as a priceless, irreplaceable urban green space that's open to all. Nature is for everyone. Liberty State Park is for everyone. We need the governor to publicly support the Protection Act and for our state legislature to finally make this a law.
Thank you, Shayna. Thank you for your patience. I'm glad we have a little cloud cover now. We're going to just have Greg Ramo speak and then myself. I do want to there's 3 board members of the Friends of Liberty Park who are able to come today. I don't know if you could see Eliza Wright, who's been our co-vice president for 25 years, and Sarah Schulzer is here today, who moved to Asbury Park recently but is a tremendous fighter for Liberty Park, and Gladys Vasquez, whom I saw before, and Doug Fleischer. And let me just give a few more brief thank yous. Thank you to the famous running fun Tony, Dancing Tony of Rocket Docket, providing sound today. Where are you? Tony's over here in the yellow shirt. He's a tremendous advocate for so many causes and puts on events all over town and has been benefiting nonprofits for the last few months. And I want to thank his helper Jeremy today at the soundboard. I want to thank you, Jeremy, and thanks to Darren Thorpe in the middle. Darren, would you raise your hand with your pink shirt? Darren has been working on a documentary about Liberty State Park. It's in progress, And if you go to the Friends website and click on the banner of Protection Act, you'll see an amazing trailer which he gave out to the world the other day, about a 4-minute trailer of some of his initial interviews. So thank you, Darren. And Mike Pilgrim is here doing some filming today. And I thank everyone for coming out and being so patient. So the person who probably should get the longest introduction today is going to get the shortest. So Greg Ramo, for over 27 years, has been a co-ally in fighting for Liberty Park, the CEO of the New York, New Jersey Baykeeper.
Thanks, everybody. And, you know, it's frustrating, right? How many times folks have had to come back, even generationally, come back out time and time again. And I was thinking about that, and I was starting to get angry. And then I thought about it a little more, and I was like, you know what? This is it. We're in a battle for the soul of our country, and maybe of the world. You know, don't want to be overstating it, but, you know, what's important. And this is community. These are people, everyone out here loves, cares about their neighbor as much or more than themselves, cares about the values that we see in the great symbols at Liberty State Park. So in some ways it's a gift. Maybe I'm getting old and silver lining, but thank you all. And the other thing is that as this park continues to be preserved and improved, each one of you, everybody knows that you've had a stake in it. You're the ones who built Liberty State Park. We all built it together. The great speakers and activists today, the great elected officials, they're all going to pay a price, because they're up against a billionaire's money, they're up against lobbyists, and it'll cost them. But they fought for the folks, and we'll remember them. So it's empowering. You know, some of these fights are just what we have to go to, and it's also nice to have one that's so clear cut. There's a lot of things that are nuanced and challenging. There's nothing nuanced about this. They're wrong, we're right. A big baby billionaire isn't getting what he wants, and he's paying people money to tell lies, to call people names. It's sounding too familiar in this country, these big wealthy folks who can't control themselves and are impetuous. So that aside, what are we here for? Okay, Caven Point. Caven Point Natural Area was purchased with both state green acres and federal land and water conservation fund dollars because it's so spectacular, like Shayna just described, like everybody's been talking about. Because it has monarch it's a home to monarch butterfly migration coming in all the way from Mexico. Because horseshoe crabs migrate there, and kids from all over Hudson County and the state who might not otherwise see these things get to see that miracle on that sandy beach right here in this corner that everybody's been standing here. Everybody gets to see it, not just some, not just the privileged. That state green acres money, unfortunately, the protections, it's supposed to protect the property, but diversions are influenced by elected officials. Both Democrats and Republican governors have done it, because the park, if it wasn't for Sam and all of you, would be a huge patronage pit, and they're still fighting, trying to hold on to that. But so because Green Acres and because the federal legislation still hasn't stopped these kind of plans from coming forward, that's why it's so important that Governor Murphy, although he supported the interior plan, get off the fence, stop worrying about offending Paul Fireman, and act as a steward for Liberty State Park and just say no to leasing and selling Caven Point. It's that time, Governor Murphy. Step up, please. On the federal side, on August 4th, federal government passed the Great American Outdoor Act, which provides permanent and full funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is great. That's what funds our national parks and our special treasures, and it's part of what funded Caven Point. What's the point of our tax dollars and these laws going forward if a billionaire, anytime he wants something, he can just say, oh, I'm going to throw some money at it, I'm going to get it? What if Jeff Bezos wants to turn the Grand Canyon into a log flume? Do we start saying, oh, you got to compromise? Well, he has a point. Come on now. As so many folks have said before, this is our park, this is ridiculous, but we just passed major legislation to protect these parks. To go against it would be ridiculous. the Liberty State Park Protection Act, as so many people said, it basically shouldn't even be needed, but it is. And it basically says the public here, all of you have more rights to have input in public meetings and what happens to our shared park. It makes sure there's a public advisory board, and it makes sure that big developers who don't give anything back to the park, who use it for their own, can't develop it. But amenities for the park, like Central Park and bike rentals and restaurants that serve people, park visitors, can be here. That's all it says. So it's a very simple act. It almost passed, and then the politics and the money got involved. And I'll just say, on closing, today I'm representing, we have a coalition of 80 groups who have been part of the coalition to save Caven Point and pass the Liberty State Park Protection Act. That's 80 community organizations and environmental groups from around the state: New Jersey Audubon, New Jersey Sierra, the Jersey City Parks Coalition, our great friends at the New Jersey Garden Club, Jeannie Jeremiah. We've got so many folks and many coming on, and all they're saying is the same thing that everybody else has said. This is our park, protect it. And we have 80 members, and it's growing. And thank you all so much for everything you've done and for who you are. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. And thanks for bringing your new dog. This is a park for dogs, for wildlife, for all of us. I see in the crowd Steve Lipsky and your wife, Loretta Lipsky, a new freeholder. Thank you for coming out today and your strong support of Liberty State Park. I see so many community leaders here: Angelo from Van Voorst and Elna from Hamilton Park, and people, Michael Grant, Jeremy, Jerome Choice from the Berry Lane Park Board. So thank you all for fighting for this park and coming out on this beautiful day. So thank you for standing up for this sacred and priceless public land, which once and for all must be protected forever. It's scarce urban open space and scarce urban nature, vital for our quality of life. As others have said earlier today, it became even more clear during the pandemic that the park is an essential mental health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health public resource. The Protection Act and the Caven Point Natural Area are both still threatened by billionaire Paul Fireman, whose money killed the act last January because he wants golf holes to bulldoze a special natural area, which Shayna spoke about, and Lola. The act is reintroduced, and now Fireman is continuing to spread lies with his bought-off surrogates and a phony front group. And we must and we will prevail. This is the crossroads epic battle to end all battles, to ensure a peaceful future for Liberty Park. This is our time. It's our time now to preserve our park inheritance from its founders and past grassroots movement, and we must make a free and green park our legacy to the future. So I'll start a chant of free and green, 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 free and green. That's what the chant has been from the day the park opened, and that's what the Protection Act will ensure for future generations. The DEP manages the park, and the DEP listens to whatever governor is there, but the governor's only there for a few years, and what is constant is us, is the people. This is the park of, by, and for the people. And we must protect it from arrogant and greedy, privatizing profiteers. We'll never stop fighting for the people's park, our urban backyard, America's park. We the people own this park. It's our public land. Whose park? Our park. Whose park? Our park. Whose park? Our park. It's time, as Greg Ramo said and others have said, it's time for Governor Phil Murphy to stop being silent and to take the overdue social justice action of publicly supporting the Protection Act after 44 years of overwhelming opposition to privatization, no matter what revenue was promised. It should be a no-brainer for Governor Murphy to protect this park behind the Statue of Liberty and in this densely populated area. As Greg said, the governor must say no to billionaire Paul Fireman and publicly urge the legislature to pass the act. So Governor Murphy, say no to Fireman. Governor Murphy, say no to Fireman. Governor Murphy, say no to Fireman. We will protect the park from him and any future greedy profiteer who wants to take our priceless land away from us and from future generations. And as Greg said also, Liberty State Park's soul is at stake, just like the soul of our nation is at stake in November's election. And we must and we will fight for justice for our park and for our nation. Now, before I forget, I told our wonderful speaker, Keith Baden of the NAACP, who's over here standing with Eliza and standing next to his wife. They've been married for 59 years. Yvonne Baden is from the Bronx, and they've been through many battles and led the way in many battles, and I know their advocacy will help us get the Protection Act passed. So thank you again, Mr. Keith Baden, with your wonderful wife, Yvonne. Thank you. So please, if you're in an organization, not in the coalition, and it is actually up to 89 groups now, and we'll keep building this local and statewide coalition. And please sign the petition and share it, which is on the Friends website. We're up to 21,000 people without any public engagement these last few months. And on social media, if you say anything about the Protection Act, please tag the governor with hashtag #StandUpForLSP Protection Act. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of the heart of all the people who've passed on, who fought for and envisioned this park, and who fought for this park so many years. So thank you.